Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mama Genius Hub podcast. I'm so excited to have Doris on today. We are going to be talking about the word duality. What does that even mean? It means how do we be the same person in our profession as well at home, merging all that together so we truly are that authentic self. And that's who we are in the world. And we're going to bring Doris on to tell us all about that right after this. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. So I'm back. And so Doris Jackson Shazier is an ICF certified leadership coach, speaker, and author with over 20 years of experience in corporate leadership. Known for her relatable approach and practical insights, she empowers individuals and teams to thrive in high accountability. We all need that, right? High morale environments. She's also wife and mother of 4. Come on, ladies. She's going to teach us a lot today. Welcome to the stage, Doris. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm so excited about being here.
I'm really inspired by our conversation even before we even get started, just because it is always that idea of who am I? And a lot of times we think we have to be different people all the time. I love this. I'm just looking forward to this conversation of how we really just bring that authentic self of who we are to essence to all parts of our lives. And so as I always jump in, what is your why behind wanting to do this, or what made you start with this, or what was your story, however you want to take it?
Okay, so a couple of different things. Number one, I've always been very excited about sharing about my motherhood journey along with my leadership journey, because I think sometimes women, we get it hard, or mothers, we get it hard, whereas people don't think of us as leaders. And I'm like, motherhood is a leadership position. Like, it was my first adult leadership position. I had my first child at 20 years old, so pregnant at 19. And I like to tell people that my first leadership position was motherhood. I learned so much about how to be a leader through being a mom. And I was able to take some of those things that I learned into the corporate workspace. And I believe that they were just a key ingredient to my success.
Can we just pause for a second? I want to reiterate that. Listen to how she just described that your leadership position is being a mom. Sometimes we say just a mom, just this.
No, you're a leader.
You are a leader. And I just wanted to reiterate that one more time before you continue, but I just love that.
Yeah, well, thank you. So what I do often, especially with mommy leaders, is kind of help bridge that transition in terms of the things that you're learning at work. And some of those leadership qualities that you use to lead others definitely are transferable into the home. And then some of the things that you're doing at home are definitely transferable into the workspace. I'm known for doing IDPs, not only on the job, but at the house. I have individual development plans for each one of my children. And so I took that from the workspace, but I just like to teach others how you can use the different things that make you successful in those different areas, and they're transferable skills.
I just love the word transferable that you just pointed out. And I just want you really, because a lot of times we're like, I'm going to throw this out there right now, because it just hit me right now. My husband always says, you got to leave your business separate from the home.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just see your, especially as an entrepreneur, you see the lines cross all the time. And I'm trying to explain that's how it works better.
Yeah. And I think that there is a degree to, or an extent to which there is separation, but I think that we benefit a lot more when we know how to leverage some of those same qualities in different places. I think the only thing you really need to adjust is the intensity of how you use it. But being firm, being direct, being savvy, knowing how to influence, applying discipline, follow up, goal setting, like all of those things work very well in the workspace and the home space. It's just the intensity or the degree in which you use them.
I love that when you think about that with especially, obviously teaching your kids all these skills and things. So let's break this down a little bit and give a little bit of where do we start? Because as we look at momhood, we look at like a 24-hour day, right? That's all we have, and how we split up. And I know you're a queen of time management and stuff, so I'd like to jump into that first, as in then trickling down to all the skills. So where do you start with merging those times together? Because I know that time management is not one of necessarily my expertise. So I'd love to throw that question at you.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and it's ever evolving because there are certain seasons or times in life where things are busier, and I feel like I don't have it all together either. So I have those moments, no matter how great you feel that you are, we all have those moments, and so that's pretty normal. It's a part of the human experience. So I just want to put that out there. But I guess where we start is with the heart, which we start with home, and how do we kind of identify our roles? One of the things that I've started working on a few years ago was how I introduce myself, right? And one of the things I think that women or mommies we fall into is we confuse what we do with who we are. That's the first thing we have to do is understand that those are two different things. I am more than what I do to earn a living.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I am, right? So who I am, I like to think of it's in the titles that no one can take away from me. And then what I do is, a title or expertise or a skill that I show up in exchange for compensation. So what I do is I'm a leadership coach and management consultant, and I really, am a good thought partner for others. And I help them create high accountability, high morale spaces. But who I am is I'm a mom. I'm Danielle to some of my friends. Like I'm a really good friend. I pride myself on that. I'm very courageous. I'm very curious, but those are who I am. So I think the first thing that we have to do as mom in order to build these really good spaces is number one, we have to understand that what we do and who we are two different things, and we have to make room for both. That's where it starts.
I'm just going to take a deep breath on that one because it's so hard sometimes to differentiate those two. And especially in a society set aside so much with achievement,
Yeah.
that what we do so much is if we're not doing enough, then we lessen ourselves and we get into like not being enough because of it. And I love that you just made that separation of who I am versus what I do. They're separate.
Yeah. And the easiest way I know that anyone can define it is think about the titles that no one can take away. And that's closer to who you are. And then when you think about, like I used to be the senior director of leadership development for a major company. That was a title. And when that chapter ended, that title went away. But being a mom is a title that no one can take away from me. No matter what happens, I am still the mother of those 4 children that I birthed.
I love it so much. And we'll be right back in just a moment. Attention, mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. And we're back. And so I really want to dive in. You started alluding to the intensity of some of these skills, and we talked. You rattled them off so much. I like my notes are like not. I couldn't follow with what you were saying. So I kind of want to dive deep into that now that we're back from the break. Of how do we like merge those together, and what skills should we focus on trying to merge a little bit between the office or corporate entrepreneur, whatever you are, and home life? How to take that however you like.
No, I get exactly what you're saying. So if I had to think about 3 skills that I think are very commonplace for women in leadership or moms in working environments that are transferable, or again, my top 3 that I think you could focus in on and really refine for both home and work. The first one would be the way we follow up. I think sometimes with our kids, we don't follow up in the same capacity because they have our little hearts. And in the workspace, we may have a little bit more discipline around our follow-up processes. And like I mentioned before, having an individual development plan for my children is important for me because, again, we institute a process of what follow up is going to look like, and it gets them acclimated for what it's going to look like when they become adults. And you have to deliver on certain things, or you keep your word. So I think that if you could really identify, how do you currently follow up? How do you hold others accountable? What does that process look like? Can it be instituted at home? And then really you only alter the intensity. Again, you're not going to fire your 15-year-old. Like you
Really?
yeah, you won't be able to fire them, but what's the intensity or the equivalent to establishing discipline around them? So I would say how we follow up is definitely something that's transferable. Goal setting is something that's transferable. Again, that individual development plan, I'm putting pen to paper on what it is that we're going for each year.
What would that individual development plan look like? What are some of the things that are on that?
So I like to think about home life, school life, social life are the three that I kind of use, for my kids, and then itself. So if there's something that I could do to help support them in terms of how they're feeling about themselves, their mental health, what's going well for them, then we identify what those things are. We talk about what maybe social goals are as far as, what type of friends we want or what type of athletics or sports we're going to do. I'm not a mom that's going to be, on the sideline all day and all night because my kid wants to do 4 different sports. I have 4 children. They all deserve me. And so we have to compromise and we have to decide that, yeah, you can do softball this season and then you can try basketball next season, but we can't do both. And so they have to make those decisions because I'm not going to allow them to run me raggedy. Like I have to be there for all of them. And so that's our social. And then academically, what's happening with school? How do I better support them? One of my kids right now has a math tutor. I tried to tutor him at home. It was just easier and better for both of us that we got a tutor.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. We had to bring in reinforcements. And his grades have been better. It has worked out better, so it works. And then I have a child now that's a senior and he's graduating. So now we've been focusing on what does that transition look like as far as school, as far as socially, as far as entering the workforce. And so again, much like what you would do at work, where you have goals in different categories as it relates to performance or expectations, we set out and just have very intentional conversations about what is it that I'm expecting, combined with what is it that they are expecting for themselves, and then what do we need to do to help them get there.
I'm taking a pause on that so much because it's so true. And you think about, you lay them out sometimes for yourself, or you think about the goals and stuff, but I never really thought about putting it in. I've heard of different things of plans for kids and stuff, but I've just never heard of that systematic order. And I love that. And I just want to reiterate that a little bit in terms of looking at each part of where the kids are at and having those conversations. And I think that's so important. The more we open up those conversations and giving the choice. I love how you said, like, making the choice between sports. And for me, one of the big things, especially with sports or different activities, is when they decide to make that commitment, they're in it for that season.
Yeah,
like you can't give up. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, don't go and go swim practice tonight. Like, compromise on what days you don't go and do go. But like, for instance, last week we just got home from vacation and my daughter, like, come Monday was like, I don't want to go to swim practice. We're like, yeah, maybe you should go tonight, maybe take tomorrow off, but like not to, and we're trying to negotiate like when she could take a little bit of a break in that. But oh my God, we just spent the weekend at a swim meet and my head's still spinning from all the noise.
Yeah. I bet. And with me having 4, sometimes we just have to compromise. We have to compromise on what we can do this season, and everybody have to wait their turn. But I think it's good. It's healthy for them because that's what life is going to look like for them as they get older too. They'll have to compromise and prioritize. So they get good practice at home.
That's so true. And then, and I got lucky that my little, so I have 3, and my 2 girls have both joined swim now. And so they were actually on the swim deck with each other, cheering each other on yesterday. And so it was so cool to like watch that dynamic grow between the 2 of them. And my son is off doing theater productions and God knows what, okay, this I just have to share because it was just so funny. So he waited for us. He didn't want to go to swim meet. He waited for us to be out all day so he could sit at home because we just got back from Puerto Rico and he loved flan. So he could sit there and figure out how to make flan.
Hey, but that's going to come in handy.
I was just like, we come home from this long day. And he's like, I want to I really just wanted to make something great for my sisters and celebrate them. We're like, you just really wanted to make that.
That's nice. So what's your age spread? How old are your kids?
So the oldest that did that is 14, who he just turned 14 over the holidays. He's a Christmas Eve baby. And then I got an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Awesome.
I know yours is a little bit older, so go through your age groups, see where we're at.
So that's what's interesting about my parenting experience is, number one, I've been in the game for a long time. I try not to look like what I've been through.
You don't.
So I have a 20-year-old. And she has already graduated college. She graduated with her bachelor's in business at 19 years old. And so I talk a lot about raising a high-performing child. And then I have a 17-year-old senior, I have a 12-year-old sixth grader, and I have a 5-year-old kindergartner.
We got the gamut here.
I got all the kids at the different stages, but at the same time. And so it gets really interesting. My biggest lesson that I would like to share about that is I've learned you can't please everyone. And so I don't try. There's always somebody that this is boring or it's beneath them or whatever. And it's like, suck it up, buttercup. We're going to go through this together. And so they've learned how to be very empathetic, very supportive, and they understand that today's about this child and tomorrow's about me, and we trade off.
And I think that's so wonderful. And I love that you're putting that up and those expectations. I think it is about, and that's true of all the expectations that we have for our kids, because I mean, unless we like state them out just as you did. And just as I was saying with my kids, in terms of like, you finish out that season. Like if you just at the end of the season, you want it, no problem. But we're putting that commitment in there. So yeah, so Saturday we ended up, they had finals for the swim meet. So we went from swimming in the morning. My middle child had also a band concert that she was supposed to be there for most of the day. Finagled that she just had to go play for the concert and then back to swim.
Wow. It gets busy.
It gets busy. It's good. And it's good to support them and all of that. And then just realize what your role, I love how you said that, how much you need to put into yourself and those things. Cause then, the next day I was like, okay, mama needs a nap.
Yeah. We have to not only model that for them, but I'm intentional about teaching them. And like, okay, so you set this goal, you want to do this, you want to do that. What about self? Like, what time are you going to have for this? What is going to be like your self-care? How are you going to, I'm already teaching my 5-year-old coping mechanisms, something that I didn't learn. And when I was younger, but also I didn't learn with the other kids. And so that's the cool thing about my experience is that each child is getting the benefit of me learning and growing. So I tell him to smell the roses and blow out the candles. And it just teaches him how to do a deep breath. And so when he gets himself all upset and work out, I'm like, smell the roses, blow out the candles. Like do that 5 times and then let's talk about it. And so as we learn as mom and exposes ourselves to things, we're able to kind of, teach them. And so, yeah, that's another thing that I've kind of instituted in that self part is how do I teach them early on how to cope? Because I'm noticing a lot of teens are struggling with coping with just minor things, So, yeah.
And that kind of, let's circle back one last time before we have to finish up because we're running out of time, sadly. What about when we get back to how does a mom, like, we start with the idea of time management and the idea of the mom prioritizing what matters to her. So what are the first things that you suggest for a mom to do to figure out how to prioritize or how to manage wherever you want to take that question?
Yeah. I don't know if this is going to be a great answer because I believe it's whatever best fits the family at the time. I think what we have to remember is nothing is forever. And so it's seasonal. It's certain seasons that we're in. Certain seasons may be a little tougher than others. Other seasons will be easier. But what are we willing to commit to for that season is what's really going to be important. Spring is a different type of season for my family than it is in the fall because most of my sons have played football. And so football in the fall, it's a different type of commitment. We work things around a little bit differently. Our Saturdays are more preoccupied, but I can always look forward to when spring comes around, we're going to have more Saturdays open because basketball is more in weekday evening events and not Saturdays. And so we just kind of prioritize. So we do different trips or different things in the spring versus the fall because it works out. So I think for each family, you have to look at it as a season. It's not forever. So if it's a tough season or if it's a long 12 weeks, then we commit and we work around those 12 weeks. But I think you have to analyze it and prioritize based off the season that you guys are in. Like how long would this particular decision impact the family? and then you kind of go from there.
I love that so much, keeping it in perspective of the seasons and making those decisions. And again, as the kids grow, those decisions start to change
It's ever
too.
evolving.
They start to take more accountability for things. Like I said, my son making flan, like, he's taking over some of the food prep and things like that we wouldn't have had in the past, and so those things start to change. And so it's an ever evolving thing. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Do you ever feel like your own dreams are fading on you as you focus and keep everything together for your family, or been buried under laundry and school runs and endless to-do lists? They're so deep, you don't even know what they are anymore. The Mama Genius Hub is here to help you uncover that part of you again. Maybe you felt that pull to start a passion project, return to a hobby you once loved, or pursue a career that lights you up, but you're so caught in everyone else's needs that you keep slipping through the cracks. In just 15 minutes a day, our mini courses will help you reconnect with those dreams while finding a new rhythm in motherhood's beautiful, messy life. And best of all, you'll be doing it with a community of moms who truly understand the juggle and the joy. The Mama Genius Hub is a community who've been there and are here to support and inspire each other every step of the way. It's time to rediscover your spark, live in your genius, and inspire your kids by showing them how to follow their own passions. Join the Mama Genius Hub today and start creating space for you again without guilt and doing it solo.
Come to www.connectingmamas.com for more details. And we're back. And so awesome to have your expertise in this and really do it. I'd love for you to final question. I'm sorry, I'm like blanking today.
No problem.
No, I lost it. Okay, here we go. So what final question of the day for us is, my camera just went wonky. Let's see, give me 1 second. Let's see. It did this earlier today. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard today, but we roll with it because we're moms and we just follow through. Yep. But what is one common misconception about motherhood you think holds many moms back from really stepping into their genius?
It's definitely, I would say it's a mindset thing. I think it's the belief that everyone else is doing it better, or the belief system that everyone else has it together.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, and it's like no matter how transparent I am and how much I share with others, this just some of my challenges and things that I go through, there's this perception that I have it all together, and I'm like, I am figuring it out just like you. I think I'm resourceful. I think that I know how to leverage technology because of my leadership skill set. I know how to delegate. I know how to work through others, identify their strengths, and then kind of divvy up the task at hand. But definitely, I am going through it just like everyone else. I think the biggest misconception is we think that we're alone, and we think that it's only happening to us, and we think everybody else has it together. And it's so untrue. Literally, it's just some of us are a little bit ahead of the curve, and a little bit ahead of the curve, and then some of us have great composure.
I love you said ahead of the curve, but I feel like ahead of the curve at times, and then like also be like,
yep, it's ever evolving. It's ever evolving. So I may be in a good season, and then some are all completely off. But I think that we have to give ourselves that grace, and we have to understand that, man, they're knocking it out of the park today, or man, it appears that they're knocking it out of the park, but it doesn't erase or it doesn't take away from the moments that everyone has trials in motherhood. We all do.
I love that so much. And I think that's why I even started this podcast with the community to go with it, because it's so much more fun when we do motherhood together, but we also realize that we're not alone in this anymore. And for so long, it's just like, I just always think back to, why am I blanking on her name? But it was in the 60s that she wrote her book. And my brain is not here today, but that's okay. But anyways, it was always about that stay-at-home mom who's supposed to do all these things, but then you want more out of life, and what is that more? And we feel guilt about it, but it's really that more is that genius inside of you that needs to like be unlocked. Debbie Ferdon, my brain, thank you. and it's all about really coming into that and really seeing who you are. And I love how you said who I am versus what I do is so different. Like you can't put those two together. But we always say what I do is who I am. as a
No.
society, and we can't do that.
No, you definitely both are relevant, but they're two different things. And I will tell you a little bit about how I was able to step into my genius really quickly. Much like what you described, I was at a job, I was making six figures. Everything was going well. And I like to call it kind of like the interruption of everything. The right circumstances happened to where I had to take that leap of faith in order to do what I knew was best for me and for my family. But it required me to walk away from the six-figure job and a lot of stability in order to craft out the career and what I felt like I needed to know. So I know how scary that could feel. But there's good on the other side of it. There really is good on the other side, but I can completely relate to how scary it feels to maybe take a leap or do something that you really, really want to do deep down, especially when you have little ones dependent on you.
Yeah. And so on that note, tell everyone how they can get a hold of you. And I know you have a book to share with us, and if you have a free gift or
yeah. So definitely you can follow up with me. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like all the social media platforms. I'm there. They're under my name, Doris Jackson Shazier, or Shazier Coaching Consult. My website is Doris Jackson Shazier, and you find information there about my first published book, which I'm just going to hold up for a second. It's called Raising Justice: Lessons Learned Through Motherhood. So in this book, a couple of things about it. Number one, raising justice. That is my daughter's name. So it's literal. It's about raising justice, but it's also about helping moms to raise justice figuratively in terms of how do we create mother-daughter or mother-son relationships that may be different than the ones that we experience. And so one of the things that you learn in this book is how sometimes I had to pause, or I was challenged with trying to raise my daughter in a way that I wasn't raised. I was the 19-year-old pregnant college student who raised a 19-year-old college graduate. And I tell a lot about what that journey was like and how I raised a child that we have a really good relationship with each other. Another cool feature about my book and what I'm committed to in all of my writings are going to be less than probably 120 pages. I understand that we're busy and we don't have all day to kind of get the message. So the book is less than 100 pages. It has really good lessons on that I learned from motherhood in it. And I'm excited to be able to share it with the world. One of the things on my checklist, and once I left corporate America, I was able to accomplish, was writing my first book.
And you're right on par with everything I'm saying about the hub. Is we're like 15 minutes or less, because we know as busy moms, we're really busy, but at the same time, it is possible to make a difference and make a change in the things that you want to do.
Definitely.
And so we're going to put you backstage for just a minute. I'm going to go through a couple takeaways, and we'll bring you back for a final takeaway, Doris. We'll see you in a second. Wasn't that amazing? Again, I'm going to start with what she was saying, that the first leadership position that you have is being a mom. I just want to let that sink in for a moment. And then that's our really big first takeaway from this, is just reminding yourself of that first leadership position. And then now, how do we merge that from home to work and put those things together? And that leads us into just takeaway number 2, is the 3 top transferable skills she was talking about was way to have that follow-up individual plan with your kids, hold each other accountable, and then also that goal setting with them as well. And then it's a matter of degree of intensity, how intense you are with how you do it at work versus how intense you are at home, but that these skills are transferable between both sectors of you. And that leads us into takeaway number 3, which is who I am is not what I do. They are 2 distinct, separate things. So it's a good thing to identify those separately. So right now, what you do for a job or what you do 2 months from now could be different. Or if you decide to realize that you're not in your genius or wherever you're at and want to make a change, you can make those changes. Who I am. Again, I love how she puts it. Those are things about your personality, of who you are, things that can't be ever taken away from you. Once you're a mom, you're always a mom, right? So looking at those personality traits, as she called her, Doris called herself courageous and curious. What are those traits about yourself as well? And that leads us into takeaway number 4, which is really talking about how do we cope? I love how she brought that topic up. How do we teach our kids to cope? How do we cope during the day? And she gave that great example to use with your kids, which I'm going to reiterate right here. Smelling the roses, blow out the candles. Perfect way for the younger kids to really just picture those deep breaths that really can change that state. And a lot of what we do in the Mama Genius Hub with the Reset Center of showing you moms how to reset that before going to react to your kids. That leads us to takeaway number 5 is looking at seasonality. What season is your family in at this moment in time? What are you willing to commit to for this season? And then how that might change afterwards. And especially as your kids start to age and their needs and things start to change, is that you're using, she called it, I'm going to refer back to the individualized plan. I know she had another word in there and I can't remember off the top of my head, but using those plans to help with that seasonality and those growth of what your kids are going through. So we're going to bring back Doris right now and see how we did. How do we do?
Wow, that was amazing.
Well,
thank you for capturing all of that. That was amazing.
Well, I love it just because we are busy and it helps to help the mind to reiterate the things we do. But I'd love for you to give our final takeaway to our audience today.
Final takeaway. I would like to say, please, 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 mommies, you guys deserve it. Please bestow yourself with as much love and grace as possible. Please.
I just want to throw hearts out there right now for those on video.
And
those of you listening on audio, we're just sending love out to all of you because moms, you deserve it. You're the best. And we love you. And that's why we're doing this.
Yep.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.